Yes, that's what we're gonna do. You want me to do this?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Good evening, chairs. Chair Maggie Bird,
Here.
Vice Chair Adriana Vandergraaf,
Here.
Matthew Johnston,
Here.
Shane Warburton has been excused. Buzz Patterson has been excused. James Flickinger, Gerald Abramson,
Here.
John Corno,
Here.
Steve Weiss, and Steve Tannehill has been excused. We have a quorum this evening.
Thank you. And let's see. Approval of the minutes of the November meeting.
I move to accept the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Good, lots of them. Okay. Roll call on that?
Chair Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Adriana Vandergraaf,
Yes.
Matthew Johnston,
Yes.
Gerald Abramson,
Yes.
John Corno,
Yes.
Steve Weiss.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public comment period. Airport related, excuse me, airport related comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Chair Maggie Bird, we're going to read something from back here for the public. It's a different script, if that's okay. Okay. To members of the public who wish to address the commission tonight with live public comments on any agenda item, please visit www.bcairports.org/meeting-calendar for participation instruction, streaming links, meeting IDs, and passcodes. For in-person public comment, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the secretary before the end of the public comment period for items listed on the agenda. Speakers will be called to speak after the agenda item is presented. For our remote participants via Zoom or telephone, please accept the prompt to be promoted as speaker and unmute your microphone when it is time for you to speak. In-person and remote participants will have 3 minutes to make their comment. And we'll check for public comment.
Chair, we do not have anybody online wishing to make a comment at this point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then new business, I guess, is what's next. And selection of chair and vice chair for this calendar year. And I know we only have 6 people here, but I think it's a very important thing to do. And I would like to make sure that, well, my feelings are very strong, that people on this commission know what they're doing, are familiar with aviation, and we want to really be careful that we're dealing with people that have enough experience. And it's an Aviation Advisory Commission, and it's been misinterpreted, I think, in my opinion, a few times. So we'll hold nominations from the floor for the chair for this year.
Because of all of her vast experience in aviation and the excellent job she did last year, I would like to nominate Maggie Bird for a second year as chair. She has a great understanding of the needs of of aviation in the Ventura County, great deal of experience, and has done a great job. So I would like to nominate Maggie.
Thank you. I accept. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we're accepting.
I second the nomination, Steve Weiss.
Thank you. Okay. No, looking for, well, we have to have a roll call vote on that one. And then we'll take nominations for the vice chair.
This would be a great opportunity for some of the new folks on the committee to step into the role as vice chair if they felt comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have as much speaking and so forth to do, but it does, you know, it is educational and you do start, you know, moving up the line if anybody starts, you know, really wants to get some information and you know, take on that role. It's actually pretty, you know, it's not too complicated.
Yeah, I would love the opportunity. Unfortunately, with some personal things, I'm not able to be able to do that right now. But I'd like to nominate in the spirit of that, John for vice chair.
Yeah, I'd like to second. Okay, I'll do it. Sure. Yep.
Okay, great.
I just want to confirm who was the second for John Cornell. Well, are we okay for a roll call, Chair Bird?
Okay.
So for a roll call for Chair Maggie Bird as a second term for chair, I have Chair Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Adriana Vandergraaf,
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed that.
we're doing the roll.
Well,
Oh, yes.
Matthew Johnston,
Yes.
Gerald Abramson,
Yes.
John Cornell,
Yes.
and Steve Weiss.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously as Chair Maggie Bird for a second year of chair for the Aviation Advisory Commission.
Well, thank you very much. And I really want to just take an extra minute to thank Adriana for all of her help as vice chair this year. She's had so many challenges and she's managed to come through and help out this group and me many times over. So thank you, Adriana. And I know,
And I'm getting less gimpy.
right, she's getting better. I know the tradition will be carried on.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And we'll
Okay.
go ahead and take a roll for the vice chair nomination
Oh, sorry. Okay.
of John Cornell. For roll Chair Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Adriana Vandergraaf,
Yes.
Matthew Johnston,
Yes.
Gerald Abramson,
Yes.
John Cornell,
Yes.
and Steve Weiss.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously as John Cornell as vice chair for the Aviation Advisory Commission for 2024.
Okay. Next, receive and file a monthly staff update from
Excuse me,
communication.
Chair. I'm sorry, Chair Maggie, but we're just going to check for public comment real quick.
I'm sorry, what?
We're just going to check for public comment before we move to the next item.
Oh,
We don't have
sorry.
any public comment.
Okay,
Thank you.
let me know when we do. Okay. Receive and file a monthly staff update from Communications and Engagement Manager regarding Ventura County airports. Receive and file staff update again regarding private hangar lease conversion to long-term lease.
This is the Communications and Engagement Manager staff update. Good evening to you all. I'm Jeanette Haragi, the Communications and Engagement Manager for the Ventura County Department of Airports. As you know, the Department of Airports is highlighting unsung heroes from the local aviation community through periodic short feature stories designed to not only put a spotlight on those who tirelessly serve the community, but to also help educate the community about a portion of the airports that is often overlooked. Many may realize that Camarillo and Oxnard airports serve as vital connections to the national airspace system and are home to many businesses and individual aircraft owners, all of whom contribute to the economic vitality of Ventura County. What many may not realize is that some of these individuals and businesses also play a critical role as philanthropic contributors through a variety of nonprofit organizations that work to benefit the environment, animals, local youth, emergency response, and more. Tonight, I eagerly share our fourth story in the series, focusing on pilots and pause. Tina George approached her husband John, an Oxnard-based pilot, in 2022 with the idea of getting involved with Pilots and Pause, a national nonprofit organization launched in 2008 in response to the increase in animals being euthanized in shelters across the country. The idea for Pilots and Pause stemmed from a simple need. Debbie Boyce wanted to adopt a dog in Florida. The only problem was that Debbie lived in South Carolina. She reached out to pilot John Warenberg, who provided round-trip transportation for Debbie to and from Florida. At the time, most shelter animals were transported only by ground, but Debbie and John decided to change that and partnered as co-founders of Pilots and Paws, with the goal of connecting volunteer pilots from all 50 states to the rescue and transportation of animals from shelters to the homes of their adopted families. Similar to Debbie and John, Tina and her husband, John, partnered Tina's passion for animal welfare with John's skills as a pilot. When they find a mission in an area they are either visiting or are able to travel to, they board their Piper Comanche with their golden retriever, Hattie, and head out to save the life of a dog that would otherwise be facing death. One particular mission caught up with Tina and John while they were away in Palm Springs. 6 7-month-old Queensland heelers had been abandoned in the desert. They had been picked up and taken to a shelter and were going to be euthanized immediately due to a lack of space. Tina and John were able to assist and picked up one of the heelers and flew it to a rescue site in Paso Robles, all while Hattie sat next to and comforted her new flight companion. The heeler had been abused, John said. It reacted immediately to touch and petting. It just wanted to be loved. Rescues are not exclusive to dogs. Pilots and Paws also rescues cats, and in addition to shelter rescues, the organization has partnered with the United States Coast Guard to rescue dolphins, bear cubs, snakes, and turtles. Locally, Pilots and Paws is credited with rescuing and transporting a variety of animals during the Thomas Fire in 2017. And the esteemed National Dog Disaster Search Dog Foundation, based in Santa Paula, those dogs are all rescues, many of which have been transported to the training center by volunteer pilots for Pilots and Paws. There's also an educational component to the organization that teaches youth and adults alike about the importance of being a responsible pet owner, including sharing the daunting statistic that nearly 1 million shelter animals are euthanized each year. So far, Pilots and Paws has proudly been able to rescue more than 200,000 animals since its founding. It's a very heartwarming experience, Tina said, and you know you are doing something good. And featured here are some photos from Tina and John's a couple of the missions that they've been on and some of the pets that they've rescued. And I just want to thank Tina and John for sharing their story. And they are one of several pilots based in Oxnard and in Camarillo involved with this organization, among several others. So thank you all.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just about made me cry. No, that's beautiful, and I will do my best to try to volunteer and help. So, okay, so well, the recommendation was to receive and file this update, so we'll do that. Okay.
Chair Bird, we're just going to check for public comment real quick.
Oh, there is.
There is not. We're just checking.
Okay, I'll remember to check. Okay, then the subject receive and file staff update regarding private hangar lease conversion to long-term lease.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Madeline Hurley with the Department of Airports. I'm the leasing manager. And the last time I was here in September, provided an update at that time of the process that we've been involved with since, since October of 2022, starting with hangar inspections. In September, the update was to provide a current status report of how many we had transacted at that point in time to convert the month-to-month leases to the long-term leases, and this report to update you on the current status. And we are, if you'd like, I can read the letter. If you've not read the letter, it's a little bit lengthy, but I'm happy to do so. Provides a background for those listening, perhaps on YouTube.
I'm interested.
Sure. The Department of Airports has been using the same form to lease land to private owners of aircraft storage hangars at the Camarillo and Oxnard airports since 1985. Beginning in 2015, prompted in part by tenants' requests to be able to sublease their hangars, in part by concerns over tenants' uses of their hangars, and in part by various inadequacies of the current lease form, the department has been attempting to update the lease form. These efforts included hiring a third-party facilitator, meetings with a committee of various stakeholders at the county's airports, 2 town hall-style meetings, numerous workshops, presentations, and meetings with tenants, and hangar tenant association groups, and discussions at the Airport Advisory Commission and Camarillo and Oxnard Airport Authority meetings. During the previous 7 years, many issues were negotiated and agreed upon between the Department of Airports and the hangar tenant representatives, most recently collectively known as the Camarillo Oxnard Hangar Owners Tenant Association, or CAHOTA. In March of 2022, the CAHOTA board unanimously voted to support the new lease as drafted, and the Board of Supervisors approved the new lease document on May 24th, 2022. The transition of the 225 private hangar leases at both Camarillo and Oxnard airports to the new 20-year term lease was initiated in the fourth quarter of 2022 by sending out notices to all private hangar tenants about the process for the transition. The process included a number of requirements, including the inspection of each hangar. Hangar inspections began in October of 2022, each attended by several staff members from the department, and most inspections also had at least one member of the CAHOTA group in attendance. The initial target date to have all 225 term leases completed was by June 30th, 2023, and was later extended to a date of November 30th, 2023, following the September 14th update to your board. Also during this time period, 47 hangars transferred to new owners, which meant approximately 20% of the total lease transactions required additional administrative processing. Through extensive and repeated notices by email, certified mail, phone calls, texting, and U.S. mail, staff advised those remaining tenants who had not completed the process of the pending deadline and recommendations to address situations where the tenant had not responded, had not provided the required forms, insurance, named an aircraft, or hadn't presented a sublease, or had not completed a hangar sale to qualified buyers by the deadline. Based on the prior approved schedule, 30-day termination notices of 5 month-to-month leases were sent to owners in December to those who had not taken action to complete the conversion by the deadline. Termination notices were issued on December 27th by certified mail, email, U.S. mail, and by posting on hangar doors. We remain engaged in processing and qualifying 10 others that are somewhere in the process, have provided partial documentation, are still working but not quite done. We anticipate we will have limited legal action on the remaining hangars, and staff will continue to work towards completing the conversion of all private hangar leases expeditiously. I was asked to sort of give a couple of examples of folks that are having challenges completing this transaction, and it really varies from people who perhaps have had medical issues and haven't been able to fly, cannot fly any longer, and their aircraft is out of registration and certification, and they don't have family that are helping or can help, or maybe they are in a hospital and they cannot be reached. We are anxiously trying to finish those transactions with those folks and provide support and reference to folks that will be able to help them either sell their aircraft or sell their hangar, or provide some other sort of assistance to find a subtenant before they can get out of the hospital or get well. And those are the kind of actions that we're trying to take to bring this to a close. There's really very few that haven't responded. So we are hopeful that those that we did provide termination notices will be an impetus to finish this process. And we really believe that there's not a lot of legal action that will follow. So, are there any questions? Yes, Steve.
So what does that mean for those 5 if there's no legal action for the airport's perspective, they're just going to continue on a month-to-month lease? And
No, their leases will be terminated.
They will.
But as I say, of the 5 that received notices, we've already heard from 3 that are, so we're in the process of correcting those issues. It just took that little extra bump.
I think that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I really believe that most folks have been able to come to conclude their transactions, and we've really tried to provide every avenue to make it happen for them. So.
And speaking as an owner, it actually went very smoothly. Done very well.
Good. I'm glad.
We were one of the first ones.
Yeah, it's, as you can tell, we started this in October, so it's been over a year. And it has been a challenge, but we're down to the very last end. So, any other updates that you need? Questions?
Well, again, thank you very much. It was very well done.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
We're going to check for public comment before we receive and file that. And we have no comments at this time.
Okay. Okay, the next subject is receive and file staff update regarding per and polyfluor. You're going to have to say that.
Yes.
Substances, soil and groundwater investigation at Oxnard Airport. So you're on.
Madam Chair, thank you. Dave Nafee, I'm Deputy Director. I want to just provide your body or your board a quick update on what everybody just calls PFAS, which is all of those words that I won't try to say either. But because it kind of makes the news and it is a chemical of concern by EPA, and we are spending money on this issue, I thought we'd benefit from getting an update on what's going on with PFAS. So go ahead and flip to the next slide. PFAS is found in many consumer items. It's been in the production process for a long time, many decades. It's been used on food wrappers like McDonald's and Burger King and others because it's got properties that are kind of slick. Things don't stick to it. Same reason for sunscreens that are a nice block, physical barrier. Scott Guard is also used. But for our particular case, it also shows up in what's called AFFF, or aqueous film foaming firefighting foam. And that's a foam that's been mandated by FAA to be used at Part 139 airports, certificated airports like Oxnard Airport is. And so we have it. It's been in our firefighting vehicles. We're mandated to test those foam producing systems on an annual basis and keep all that stuff in tip-top condition. And until very recently, there's been no exceptions. You have to have that product. You have to use it in an event. And you do have to test the proportioning system on your firefighting vehicles. In the last few years, it's been allowable to test that equipment without having to release any foam. And we spent $35,000 to purchase that testing cart and use that as a way to demonstrate that the foam producing thing was working properly. But good news is that FAA has worked with the military to come up with something called F3, which is fluorine-free foam, or F3, and that does not have that same PFAS content. And so we'll be deploying that in our vehicles, cleaning out the two firefighting rigs that we've been using. And then we have taken, I think, as has been reported from here, two almost donated vehicles. One was actually donated by the city of by Burbank Airport, and the other was sold to us at pretty low cost by San Francisco International Airport. Those will be cleaned and will only be using F3 in that. And we will be among the very first airports to go through that conversion. So we're right on the cutting edge here, nationwide, if not among the first. So that's the good news. The primary concern about PFAS is that it can get into drinking water. And so there have been a number of cases that are coming forward in legislation suing manufacturers. And, I'm sure they'll figure out other people to sue, other entities to sue, FAA, who knows, maybe airports down the line. But we want to make sure we're staying on top of that. So we'll flip to the next slide. So how's that affecting us monetarily? And you can make the slide, the feature here. Just go to PowerPoint. Yeah, thanks. So it's money. We received in January 2019 a letter from the State Water Board, which is the LA Regional Water Quality Review Board. And they said, hey, we want to hear about where you may have released PFAS because we want to investigate that. And so we said, well, okay, we'll get a consultant. We got a consultant. They gave us a work plan for a nominal amount of money. And then we said, okay, go and do that investigation. They did, and sent the results back to the water boards. And they said, well, let's keep digging because you didn't wind up establishing a perimeter of where we can't detect this chemical any longer. And so we did a second round of investigation between July 2020 and November of 2021. And again, we did not reach a area where we couldn't detect it at all. And detecting it is parts per trillion, which is an amazingly low threshold. Keith has told me that if you say, I'm headed to the sun and I go 1/1,000,000th of the way, you haven't even gotten above your knees. So a very, very low threshold that they're trying to detect. But there we go. And so in September of 2022, we had to begin quarterly monitoring of the wells that have been prepared under that investigation. And in December 2022, we did a soil management plan, and we did that as a way to allow us to continue with a taxiway project. So we did all of our connectors at Oxnard, and in order to do that, we agreed to remove the soil that was underneath that had to be removed from the airport for that project and stockpile it, which is the picture we've got there in the edge. All the stockpiles, and that's been something that's gotten some attention. Hey, what is that? Is that contaminated? Is this hazardous? But it's out of an abundance of caution. We stockpiled that material again with very low probability that there's anything in it. But if they did, it would be in the parts per trillion category. But we obeyed, and we said, sure, we'll stockpile that. And we're about to do stockpile testing. We'll spend another $30,000 and definitively confirm or deny, or confirm or make sure that it's not the case that there's any PFAS in that. Ongoing, we're going to continue having to cough up for testing, reporting, investigating, and things like that until the water board is finally satisfied that we've reached a perimeter of no detect for anything on the airport. And this is just 5 fairly small areas on the airport where it's even detectable at all. So I would say that the risk is very low for anything to get into the groundwater, but because of the fact that our threshold has been non-detect, we keep going. So go ahead to flip to the next one. So in the coming months and years, as I mentioned, we're going to continue to comply. We are converting our AFFF to F3 in our new rigs, cleaning the old ones before they're decommissioned. We're going to, for the next project at Oxnard Airport, which is the parallel taxiway, rather than remove and stockpile the material, we're going to test it before we even start. And so that's going on in the next couple of months before the full project gets underway, and then we'll understand whether or not there's anything to be concerned with. If there isn't anything detected, then the project will just go on as normal, and we won't have to stockpile or anything like that. If we do have anything that comes back detected, then we'll stockpile that material somewhere on the airport so that we're not taking it across the street or having to have something that makes it look like there's anything of concern. And so then we're also just closely monitoring the litigation. There's a number of cases that are moving through. We've joined a working group that is tracking a MDL, multi-district litigation. Sorry. not my field. And so it's a nationwide thing. They're kind of like class action lawsuits, except a little bit different. But we're watching that closely to see when we should get more involved in joining lawsuits and taking advantage of settlement monies that may become available. And what's not known at this point is what kind of mitigation might be required for the PFAS that has been detected on the airport. What do we do with it? Do we cover it? Do we remove it? Do we burn it? Whatever the solution is, it won't be free. And so we'll continue to have to face this until it's resolved down the road. But in the meantime, we're just carrying on, being obedient with the letters we receive from the water board. So, questions on any of that?
Yeah, who pays for all this? I mean, where's this money coming from?
Well, it comes from our enterprise
Operations
fund.
Money from the airport?
Yeah, it comes from our enterprise fund.
Is this just Oxnard, not Camarillo too? Or?
It's just Oxnard. It's only because of the fact that the AFFF is required at Part 139 airports. We don't have any fire trucks here.
Camarillo, I get it.
Yeah, and it's not a requirement for our crash rig over at Station 50 to use it, so they don't.
And will this be reported to the public as in, look how well we're doing and we're ahead of everybody else and yay for us or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, in forums like this, absolutely. So,
I remember that there was some real negative publicity about all the dirt that was moved across the street of Oxnard there. And people were saying, well, it's all this contaminated stuff and they're throwing it away because they don't want it on the airport. And it was kind of negative, and I don't know if anybody ever responded to that.
yeah, the authority has been asking some questions. Bert Perello on the city council at Oxnard has been sharing public concerns. Gabe Duran, another council member for the city council, has been also sharing concerns expressed by the residents. I think some of it was the fact that the project was conducted largely at night. And so I think that kind of raises concerns, just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you hear the backup beepers while you're trying to sleep. And then you look out and you see things that are covered in tarps. I mean, that's just industry standard for how you stockpile.
Yeah.
You're going to cover it. You're going to put it on a liner and you're going to cover it. So it's all typical stuff. Doesn't mean it's hot. It just means we're doing what stockpiling normally looks like.
So what is so negative about this substance?
Well, the body breaks it down very slowly, and so it accumulates. So I think we're seeing, some heightened anxiety. Some of it might get political, I imagine, but there's some heightened anxiety about what that is going to be. But this is kind of the next hot topic, like asbestos and other things that you see discussed from time to time and that the lawyers like to get involved with. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Appreciate the attention.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation.
Thank you. We're just going to check for public comment, and we have none at this time.
Okay, so remember this time. Okay, so we want to receive and file that. Okay, next subject. Approval and award of a construction administration services contract to Woolpert Company in the not to exceed amount of $1,017,587. The taxiway Foxtrot, renamed Alpha, pavement reconstruction project at Oxnard Airport. Authorization for the Director of Airports or designee to execute the subject contract. You're on.
Good evening, Chair Bird, Commission members, Erin Powers, Projects Administrator. Just as you read, I'll start with just a little background. In September of 2023, your body and the Board of Supervisors approved a construction contract for the reconstruction of what was formerly called Taxiway Foxtrot and has now been renamed Taxiway Alpha. for the duration of this project, I'll be kind of switching between both because officially the grant with the FAA still calls it Foxtrot. And so our paperwork has both just for consistency and so there's not confusion later on. So this contract as so now before you for consideration, you know, in September, we awarded the construction contract and now before you is a contract for construction administration services. And the type of services we're looking at are inspection, materials testing, having an on-site supervisor, record drawings, certified payroll reviews, stormwater monitoring, and as well as meeting certain FAA specific requirements for grant funded projects like a development of a construction management plan and weekly progress reports, as well as meeting our disadvantaged business enterprise or DBE goal requirements and reporting. And so the contract amount before you for this contract is in a not to exceed amount because the airport is currently negotiating the contract. So we're asking you to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve the contract in a not to exceed amount as we continue our negotiations. The timing hasn't lined up for us to be able to have completed those negotiations, in part because with coordination with the FAA and some of these federal holidays and the timing of our meetings, we haven't been able to finalize some of the approvals we need from the FAA. But due to the long lead time for some of the materials required for the project, and these are the lights and some of the, it's mostly electrical items, we need to go ahead and have the submittals get under review so that we can put the orders in to begin construction in May of 2024, because right now the lead time is that long. So that is why we're bringing this contract in at sort of an estimated amount, but we won't go beyond that. And we look forward to hearing if you have any questions about this or if there's any additional detail.
Any questions? Do we have any public comment?
We do not have anybody that wishes to speak on this item.
Everybody understand?
Second.
Okay.
Take a roll call.
No,
Chair.
it's a receive and file. So
It goes before the board.
Not receive and file. I apologize. Okay. Roll call, please.
Chair Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Vice Chair John Cornell,
Yes.
Adriana Vandergraaf,
Yes.
Matthew Johnston,
Yes.
Gerald Abramson,
Yes.
Steve Weiss.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. Next subject, approval of an authorization for the Director of Airports or his designee to sign amendment number 1 to the consulting services contract AEA 22-09 for the Oxnard Airport construction administrative services for connector taxiways pavement, reconstruction with Aviation, a Woolpert company, extending contract time and increasing the total amount of the contract by $145,994 to $820,793.
Thank you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this contract amendment is related to the Oxnard Taxiway Connectors reconstruction project that we recently finished. The Board of Supervisors approved the construction administration services contract with Aviation. in October of 2022. We completed the project in September of 2023. However, the contractor exceeded the contract time, and that required additional construction administrative, engineering, and quality assurance testing services. That total amount of increase for the extended time is $145,994. However, due to the contractor exceeding the contract time, we also received liquidated damages were assessed, and we'll be covering that increase in contract that we're requesting from your body tonight. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, is there, contrary to that, is there any incentive for them to finish it early rather than later?
There is not. We typically phase our projects aggressively to minimize interruption, but we also try to have a reasonable amount of time for contractors. In this case, there was some opportunity for them to reduce their exposure and maybe complete it a little sooner than they did, but they did not take advantage of that, and so they were on the hook for the liquidated damages per the contract terms, and we followed through to make sure that we weren't out of pocket for additional costs due to them not taking advantage of the time they had.
So are they paying for this eventually? Is that what we're talking
Yes.
about here?
So we have deducted this amount comes out of their contract that we pay them in the end to help us cover our costs.
Anyone else? No questions? Well, thank you. Very understandable. Appreciate it.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you.
Any public comments?
Chair, there are nobody wishing to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get a roll call for that item.
Okay,
Chair Maggie Bird,
yes,
Adriana Vandegraff,
Yes.
Matthew Johnston,
Yes.
Gerald Abramson,
Yes.
Vice Chair John Cornell,
Yes.
and Steve Weiss.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, director's report.
It's me again. Hi there. Standing in for Keith Freitas, and he wishes he could be here, but I'm happy to fill in. And I have 5 items, and so I'll be happy to share what they are. So on the weekend of December 8th, the department received word that there was going to be a presidential TFR, temporary flight restriction, which basically just puts a big donut over the LA basin. And so if you're general aviation traffic, you'd have to have some reservation or come into some gateway airport. Big hassle for sure. So we were outside of that, Oxnard and Camarillo Airport, so we got very busy. And you can see the panel there on the left, which shows some big iron that's lined up on taxiway Foxtrot west of Sonair. So because of the fact that we got busy, we worked with our FBOs and made taxiway Foxtrot available for a fee. So we had a brief permit kind of process, and so we had 13, I believe, mostly Gulfstreams and that category of airplane that were accommodated there for the weekend. Most stayed and lingered, which is unusual for an FBO. And a lot of times they land and then they just blast right off, so they're not clogging up the ramp. But since they kind of stayed, that did kind of create that little bit there. So we were happy that we had the ability to accommodate that. Made a little bit of jingle for our FBOs. They sold a little extra gas, so that was good, successful. So on December 13th, Director Freitas made a presentation to the City Council of That's not him on the right. That's me. He's the one on the left. And so he made the presentation to City Council, and we gave them an update on our planning studies, which is a AOP update. And we had just wrapped up a public meeting at the Camarillo Library to mixed reviews, some kind of disappointing about how the process went, and so we wanted to kind of deal with that and put some information out there that was reliable and current, and demonstrate the fact that we're committed to seeing this through. We're dedicated to the relationship, and that we're gonna do a little bit better. So Keith had a good interaction. There was some public comment that we heard at the same time. We heard questions from the council members, and so we were delighted to have that opportunity. And so we did that on December 13th, and I've got more to say about that in just a minute. On December 5th, back to December 5th, we had a visit by a planner from Caltrans Aeronautics, and they did an inspection of the Oxnard Airport, and they found 0 discrepancies. And so we're delighted with that, and hats off to our dedicated ops and maintenance team who keep that airport in top condition and ready in its role, its very critical role of safety and meeting all the standards related to that. So pleased about that. And Jamal, did you want to come up and say something about? Jamal was going to share a little bit about the auto pay feature of the tenant payment portal.
I'm Jamal Ghazali, the manager of accounting for the department. There's been some questions whether the new online payment app can take prepayments and whether it can do auto payment. The bad news is no, it cannot. And I'll tell you briefly why not. The system, the way it was set up is, first of all, it was a combination of including the different departments at the county treasurer's office, auditor controller's office, us, as well as the developer of the app and our credit card processor. There were very strict limitations built into the functional specifications of the system where we couldn't build that. What happens is BCFMS, the county's accounting system, on a daily basis sends bills, or we call them REs, but they're the bills that the tenants pay on a monthly basis to make the monthly payments. So the system sends these bills to our developers app, and people, when you go in and make your payment, you make it on the developer's app. So the app looks for a bill to match that payment with, and if there's no bill out there, the payment can't be applied. So for a prepayment, there's not a bill out there because you're paying in advance. And for auto pay, it's the same thing. There's no bills out there, so payments can't be made. So that's the bad news. But there are workarounds. You can set up a bank automatic payment. All banks offer that service now, where you can every month they can pay your electric bill or pay your tenant bill, or if you wanted to do prepayments, you can do the same thing that you're doing now. You can mail us a check. If you want to pay 2 months, 6 months, a year in advance, send us a check. Or you can come into the office, hand us the check, or you can come into the office and you can pay by credit card. So those are good workarounds, but I'm sorry, we can't. The system can't accept prepayments or auto payments. Any questions?
Is there a charge for using a credit card?
Good question. No, there isn't. We decided for the first year that it would be free of charge for the users, and we'll look at that again. We're thinking about perhaps extending it another year, but as of now, there is no charge. And that 1 year anniversary will be in April. So at that time, we'll let everybody know beforehand.
That's poor psychology. You have to charge the people who are at bank debt. The airport gets their money automatically in the building. It's pretty simple. Whenever you let credit cards get involved, you're not charging the fee. Why shouldn't you, take advantage? I think that's an oversight.
Our intent at the beginning was to try to get as many folks using it as possible. All of the other online payment apps that different county departments use, they do charge. And we wanted to encourage you, tenants, to use the system by not charging.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks to Jamal. So, and then the last item on the director's report is that, as I mentioned, we have our AOP update study that's going on for the city of for Camarillo Airport, this airport. And we had our meeting, which got mixed reviews, as I generously said, about what happened there, what unfolded. And so we've elected to add a meeting on February 20th, and that will be a full presentation by our study team and a panel led by staff, primarily senior staff and our consultants. And we will listen to comments. We will take questions. We will pose questions to ourselves. But we will make sure that every opportunity that folks have to let us know how they feel about the future plans for Camarillo Airport, that they've had an opportunity to express them. We've had an opportunity to hear them, and we've had an opportunity to address any concerns that they've got. So we heard that was kind of missing from the interaction at the Camarillo Library in November, and so we've programmed this instead, and so we look forward to that. So February 20th at the VCOE, that's the Ventura County Office of Education, and that is, let me just read it out. That is at 5100 Adolfo Road, Camarillo, 93010. Very large, modern meeting space. We'll have a lot of seating. And I'm told there's going to be refreshments, so that could be an added bonus for coming. So with that concludes the remarks. If you had any questions, happy to do that. Yes, sir.
Can you get back to this body and let us know what the cost was to the airport?
The cost of the airport for the use of credit cards. I certainly will. You bet. Other questions?
Thank you.
Since I was at that meeting that multiple people announced their lack of enthusiasm for several items about the plan, and most of it was no big jets. I'm assuming, or no big jets or no noise or something. And there were some people who said there was an enormous amount of noise, which surprises me because they live farther away from the airport than I do. But, is there going to be some way of really looking at some of these folks who claim that, and I don't know, maybe it's real, maybe it's not, but, they say that they can't even talk to each other when these planes go over. Now, they go over my house too, and they're quite a bit lower when they're going over my house because I asked the individual where they lived. But nevertheless, if it's real to them, it's real.
Sure.
And there seemed to be some frustration about when I said, you can call, you certainly can call, you can call. That does no good. Nobody pays any attention to me. And that's, I heard that phrase over and over and over again. that does no good to call, and I said, there's a specific number, there's a manager for that, there's this, there's that, there's the other thing. This is the number, this is what you, and they all go, that does no good, that does no good, it doesn't do any good, no one listens to us. So, I'd like to say, I know better than that, but, that I live directly under the approach path to the airport, that there needs to be something addressed for some of these folks who really are very, very frustrated because they feel that they are not listened to for Camarillo.
Understood. What I would say is that what we are employing is a process.
Mm-hmm.
So our process has been on a number of fronts. First, we have Ms. Haregi, who is our communications and engagement officer.
And she does a beautiful job.
She does a great job. So what her job is to do is focused on the relationship. We want to have a relationship. So we don't like to hear the comments that people don't listen to us. That's her job is to create a structure for listening, and she's got the ability to reach the director at any time and relay comments. And there's a serious dialogue, and we take it very seriously.
I personally know that.
Mhm.
And my husband, who was with me, as you know, he was also really supporting, they do this, they do care, they do this, et cetera. And some of the, we over and over, we heard, no, they don't, no, they don't, no, they don't. And I'm just relaying it to you because that concerned me because I know better, but it's not coming across.
Yeah, well, we live in interesting times, so people will take the same information that they see and hear and react to it differently. Our method is really just to employ, an objective means to do that. We took a significant amount of money from FAA. We're conducting studies. The first piece of it, which is an objective study, it's an evaluation. It's modeling exactly what's out there and expressing that in maps. And so we've gotten to that point. But now we're about to embark in 2024 on the piece that's a little bit more human. Let's listen to you and come up with ideas. We understand that as FAA has defined the system of measuring noise and expressing it on maps, that it doesn't reach all the populations that are annoyed by what's happening at the airport. We recognize that and we empathize. But we want to continue to work with that group in a meaningful way. And so that's our noise compatibility program, which is the second piece of the Part 150 study process for both airports. And that's a collaborative engagement. We're going to listen to what the concerns are, listen to some ideas, and then challenge our consultants to devise a plan and to be able to figure out what works and what doesn't, and then carry that forward as a challenge to take what's existing and try to make it better. So that's what our commitment is. It's a strong commitment on relationships, on an objective analysis, and on the human interactions and relationship building. So that's what we can do, and I feel very, very strongly that what we are doing is reasonable and should be effective. And so, if people don't find that to be enough, then there's going to be room for those people as well. So.
Very well said. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
Great.
the time.
Any other questions or comments? Any public comments on that?
We have no public comments.
Okay. Okay, we have room for commission comments. Anybody want to throw something in here? No?
I just want to comment on the recent incredible storm that occurred, and the different kind of reach out to make sure that the airports with all the damage that occurred, I know, to hangars and the water damage, and I know we experienced some in Oxnard, and we appreciate the cooperation of the airports for that because that was kind of a extraordinary event. But I'm not sure how much damage actually occurred around the airports, but it was pretty significant to 21 hangars down in our
Um,
I'd like to follow up on that comment. My wife and I were just recently down under for Christmas and New Year's, and we were trying to make our way to the Barrier Reef, Fort Douglas. I don't know if you heard about the weather there, but they were getting 3 feet of rain an hour for 4 days. Hans Airport, that's CAIR, was closed for 4 days. It's underwater. And it's amazing how they got that back up operating. And on that note, in doing all the traveling around, I mean, there's an amazing number of airports, both in New Zealand and Australia. And little places, when you talk to the local folks, they couldn't be prouder to have an airport services. Negative comments don't exist there. I just don't know what gets into us. It's where we live, and not in my backyard. Kind of thinking. Enough for my soapbox.
Thank you, I like that. Okay, any other comments, please? No? Okay, then need a move to adjourn.
Nice to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll say.
Okay. Next meeting is February 7th.
Thank you for adjourned at 7:33 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.